Okay, everybody, David.Fogel back with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation, and I'm joined today by Lucia Caruso and Pablo da Silva. How are you doing today?
Hello, we're doing really well.
Great, thank you.
So Lucia is a composer and pianist extraordinaire, and Pedro is a guitarist extraordinaire, and together they're a husband and wife team extraordinaire, so we've got extraordinaire all around today. And I understand that both of you just got back from Korea while you were recording some new music, so let's start at the end. Usually we start at the beginning, but let's start at the end this time. What was the most recent thing that you were just working on?
Well, we just flew in from Korea. We were recording a new album with a Korean music team and string quartets, trio, and 5 singers, actually. I was playing on harpsichord. There was also another pianist, and it was a mixture of poems, original poems, with Baroque music, 17th century, and some of the 20th century pieces. And working on that, we were just releasing an album, right? Going back. Echoes of Nature, which was released this year. It's two song cycles. One of them is from this same Korean poet, Echoes of Nature, 5 poems it was based on an exhibition all about nature photos from one window in South Korea and poems related to that nature. That's what's the name. Some of them are in Italian, some of them are in French. Then the second song cycle is all Shakespeare songs from different plays, from Hamlet, from Midsummer Night's Dream, Othello, Winter's Tale. What else? What am I missing? Some of those. Conducted by the Royal Shakespeare Academy music director.
Royal Shakespeare Company.
Royal Shakespeare Company, RSC, that's what it stands for.
Music director Bruce O'Neill, and with the Orchestra of the Swan, which is the orchestra of Stratford-upon-Avon, Shakespeare's hometown. So that was very, very special because we recorded in his church where he was baptized and buried, and we recorded literally 20 yards from his grave.
Wow.
And it was just...
if I understand correctly, you have another connection to Shakespeare.
Oh, we have many connections.
You have many connections to Shakespeare. Okay, let's go with 2 of them.
Maybe we can go back in time and then we meet in the middle somewhere.
Sure, let's do it.
Go back 20 years.
Okay.
We were married on Shakespeare Day.
There we go.
Fun fact, it's the day he was born. Not so fun fact, it's also the day he died. So he died on his birthday.
It's on that, okay. Yeah. Where did you get married?
Here in New York for the first time, but then we got married in Argentina, her country, and in Portugal. So we, married 3 times. 3 times the fun, 3 times the family and friends. It's perfect. Everybody should do that.
That's great. Well, how did you meet them if you're from Portugal and Lucia's from Argentina?
We met at Manhattan School of Music where we were both studying.
So music brings you together.
And,
yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And actually we were friends for 4.5 years, only friends, best friends. And we fell in love. We started rehearsing the first rehearsal for the first recital that we did together. It was my first composition recital. I never did such a thing. I was studying from majoring in classical piano. So suddenly I met him as a friend. I said, I want to be a composer. I really want to write music. So I have a few pieces. We put it together, but the program was not long enough. So he actually taught me how to improvise. I said, improvise. Okay, let's do it. But 2 days before, I was like, how do we do that?
I was like,
wow,
you just make stuff up, right? And I'm like, it's
not
a
really.
little bit more involved than that.
Yes.
I was like, wait, you don't know how to improvise, but you told me to improvise on the program. I'm like, yeah, but you just invent new stuff. I'm like, all right, let me teach you the basics.
Well, how did that go?
She was such a natural that it was brilliant. Right. It was amazing.
Next step, jazz. That's it.
Yeah, except jazz. You're right. And I admire jazz and I love jazz above everything because that's the one genre of music that I don't master and I enjoy it just because of that. That's the one thing that I like, kind of sit back and listen. And yeah, that's why, because I don't do it.
But her first time improvising, we were doing an Indian raga. And I taught her the notes of the scale. And I gave her a guitar pick. And I was like, if you want, you can imitate one of the Indian instruments, the santur, with the pick on the piano strings.
She went,
what? She
Yeah.
went wild and she started using the palms on the bass strings. She started using her fingers. And then she found a drumstick in the practice room we were working in. And she just grabbed the drumstick and started doing sounds of thunder on the low strings of the piano. And that was her first time ever improvising in a concert.
Yeah.
So
That is not how most people start.
exactly. So that was like, hey, this girl is cool, and we fell in love.
That's
So
good.
we
Well,
fell in
That
love
week.
that week, that December 1st of 2003. We got married in 2005, which is going to be
okay.
20 years next April, this coming April.
Yes. Congratulations in
Um,
advance.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much, which is not easy. Believe that we work together the whole time. We're collaborators and married. So I
Yep.
think that gives us extra credit.
You can, yes, exactly. Okay. You can celebrate the 25th early if you want to. That's fine. That's great. That's good. So for Echoes of Nature, you submitted that for Grammy consideration this last year. And if I remember correctly, both of you are voting members of the Recording Academy and also the Latin Grammy Academy, correct?
Yeah, that's
So
right. Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about your experience within the Academy? What's it like, especially for people who are coming to symphonic music when they're young? They may not have a great appreciation for how the Recording Academy works and the Latin Grammys work, and what the benefits of being part of that academy are. So let's review some of that.
Well, I think the main benefit is connecting with people, listening to new music. During a Grammy season, since we're new members, I had never heard so much new music at once, and it was wonderful. I mean, you really get to be connected to what's happening right now. And as a composition professor at NYU for 13 years, I thought I was connected, but this made me even more connected. That was really, really nice and really wonderful. And we just, even though we didn't get a final round nomination, we got so many wonderful comments of people who, were touched by our music and who resonated with our music. And that just is worth everything. That's more important than a nomination, because if you get a nomination without connecting, without resonating with the people, I'd rather have rather have that connection.
Well, we met you through this.
This is true. This is true.
I took this experience as, like Pedro said, going beyond just the nomination is to get to know what is out there, what musicians, what other people are doing, what your colleagues of your same music audience and area are up to, and get to know each other. And for example, I was really caught by your project. Also because I like to, besides all the composition and performance, I'm really passionate about teaching young people and children. I'm developing a method through storytelling with piano music for young children, and I have a very good connection with the kids. So when I came out through your project, I said, this is a genius idea, and I got to know it. And we wouldn't have this podcast right now if it wasn't for this campaign and writing, because I was listening. I really took the work to carefully listen to every album that came my way and comment and talk to the artist. And I think this was one of the best networking events I had at Experience.
Yeah,
I must concur with that. During the Grammy voting time, and really any time, but of course we're all forced when we're submitting things to reach out to everybody, and hope everybody listens to what we're doing and return the favor and listen back and offer encouraging comments generally, right? To everybody else as well. And it's really a great time. I don't know how many events there are in the New York area, because I'm in the Southern California area, but
right.
definitely had an opportunity to attend several events in the LA area before Grammy voting started, and maybe just as it started also. Did you get a chance to attend some other similar events in the New York area as well?
I did. Lucia was traveling, but I went to a wonderful event in Brooklyn, at Brooklyn Brewery, actually, which was great. They gave us free beer.
And music and
Best
beer.
way,
That's it.
best way to network was free beer.
Yeah. Well, it is one of the things that I think goes not unnoticed at all by people involved in the process, but maybe unexpected by those who are not, or just not aware of what the music business is like especially as an independent artist. When you're a labeled sign person, it could be different. But as an independent artist, really, it's not all about, but it's much about all the connections to people who are also independent artists or labeled artists that you can meet and share experiences with, and share their music and enjoy it, and know that there are people out there who have the same passion that you do. Either it's in the same genre or in a different genre. That's great.
I made a lot of friends in that one party and that one event for the Grammys. I'm calling it a party. and and I met, some old friends, a friend that I've had for 29 years, actually, who was also a new member, just like me. And we just were really happy to meet each other there. And I never met so many, Grammy nominees and Grammy winners in one place, and it was really wonderful. And others who are just, new members who have never been nominated. And it was a great event. So I can't wait to go to the next one.
Yeah, I was also
go ahead, Lucia. Yeah, please.
No, I was going to say it was very good to reconnect with people that we haven't seen in 20 years. Like since we graduated, our lives took different ways, but then suddenly we meet again. And that was really nice, actually.
It's important to stay in touch once you do meet again. So hopefully that's what we can all do. How did you guys both get started, I guess independently, of course, in music? And to see you chose piano, or maybe it chose you, and Pedro guitar. How did that happen?
Well, I started in Argentina, and I was a kid. I was in a small, not so small, but compared to New York, everything is small. I mean, Mendoza was in the west of Argentina, and I had a wonderful teacher. I studied privately for 10 years before auditioning in New York. And yes, my passion was, I discovered my passion when I was 12. My grandfather was a violinist coming from Italy. My dad was a surgeon, but skipping a generation, I kind of follow my grandpa's passion. Although I had a very supporting father through music. And I passionately, I started late, like 11 years old is kind of late for those who start piano for the first time.
That's true. That's true.
I was it's true, right? And I was so passionate about it that when I was 12, I remember I came from school, through the books, and would play for 5 hours. They had to stop me. And that's why I kind of catch up with the time that I didn't do when I was 4 years old until I was 12. But I really took it seriously, and then auditioned to Manhattan School of Music. And since then, I'm here. Then I happened to meet Pedro on the way. Like, the beginning of the story, we started playing, we were friends, and then we fell in love. And the moment was when he comes from Portugal, similar story.
Yes.
And we put the passions together and decided to make a duo first. Then from there, we did the Manhattan Camerata, that is our chamber orchestra that we founded in New York. And from there, we discovered that we needed to really give a name to the kind of music that we do. Because it was very hard when people asked me the simple question, what kind of music do you do? We couldn't answer that with one word. We had to kind of go around an explanation. For example, the first recital we did, sitar and piano. That's not a common combination. You cannot go to Carnegie Hall, a young artist competition, and apply with a duo of sitar and piano. There's no such category. Same things with Portuguese guitar, that's the typical fado instrument.
So they ask us, do you do classical music? Do you do world music? And it's like, both. Oh, no, you have to choose one category. And it's like, okay, classical. But then they think it's going to be Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin, But then if we say contemporary, they're expecting something more dissonant, more, normally speaking, a little bit more dissonant than what we do. So Lucia created this new term, transclassical music, and I love it because it transverses, it's transnational, and it goes across genres. And
but with the base of classical music, with the techniques,
and it goes across classical musics. So the classical music of India, the classical music of the West, the classical music of Arabic music, of China, whatever. So we use these influences, and we use a lot of different classical influences from these traditions that are totally different than ours.
So when you're composing music for the world, right, then it takes a lot, I would imagine, to become familiar with the instruments of the world. So
yes,
how do you invest the time to figure out how to write for an instrument that I don't even know how to pronounce, for example, from China.
Right.
Well,
Well, because you play also. Pedro is Portuguese, but his dad is an ambassador diplomat, so he lived around many countries. He had a good experience to live, well, almost live in India, and you learn with the guru and the sitar.
So, so I lived throughout my childhood. I was born in the States, actually, but I left when I was 3 years old. So when I introduce myself, I usually say I'm Portuguese, because English it's not even my second language. It's like my third or fourth language. So, but I lived in Paris. I lived in Lisbon. I lived in Brussels and Ottawa, in Spain. And then my parents moved to 2 countries in West Africa, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, India, Mexico, Hungary. And I visited them on almost all of those places. And I absorbed the music from almost all of those places. And I got a sitar. Actually, before my parents went to India, I got a sitar when I was a teenager.
Influenced by the Beatles.
Yes.
George Harrison.
Ravi Shankar, yes. And I learned on my own. And back then there was no YouTube, so and there were no videos that I could find to teach me sitar. So I had a book.
Tough times.
And yeah. But then my parents went to India, and then I got a second sitar, a better one, and I actually studied with a guru there. And it's such a different experience, and it's amazing. But because you get to see how they do it in different places, and the concept of time there is not the same as here. A lesson doesn't last 1 hour once a week. Go practice, come back, and there's 14 lessons a semester. It's like, no, a lesson can last 10 hours easily.
You have tea, you eat, you talk about the music, the experience, you drive together and are teaching your student. That's the guru meaning, right?
Yeah.
And
these days, I would say for kids, who has the time?
Yeah.
Right.
Too many things packed into their day.
Yeah.
Including social media,
India,
but that's another thing.
In India, they make an actual ceremony where they literally tie a knot between the wrists of the guru and the disciple, so that they're actually connected and they're committed. That decision is a conscious decision of both people, perhaps even more important than marriage, because a lot of marriages are still arranged. So the guru, this relationship is not arranged. That's amazing.
2 willing participants, That's great.
And so that put it all together. I think that's what inspired the traditions, classical traditions, and we use we're both classically trained, so that's the base of any composition: the structure, the counterpoint, the orchestration, inviting modes and scales and traditions and instruments from around the world.
So let me ask a Symphonina type of question then. Sometimes I get asked for Symphoninas if it's okay to have a non-traditional instrument as part of the orchestra or as a solo feature in like a concerto sort of format. So we're all familiar with piano concertos, violin concertos, flute, clarinet, and a few people have done electric guitar and a few people have done saxophone or other instruments. And I always encourage everything, like to hear what someone has to come up with. But do you think it would be appropriate to have a sitar Symphonina concerto? And if so, are you going to write one? And 2, are there other things where you think that would be a better use of that instrument to blend in with the orchestra in other ways?
Oh, I think it's absolutely appropriate to have sitar with an orchestra. And in fact, Ravi Shankar wrote 2 concertos for sitar and orchestra, which are really nice, really surprising. Zubin Mehta conducted one of them, Andrei Previn the other, with major orchestras, London Symphony, I think. And it's just great music. It's perfectly possible. There is one thing that you have to do, which I do with most of my guitars anyway, which is amplify the instruments. So the sitar is even quieter than most guitars, so you definitely need to amplify it.
That's totally fair, I think, for recording. I mean, when we're doing recordings, we can change the mix however we care to, and things are performed. We have the benefits of electronics these days. We don't have to pretend we're back in the 1800s or 1700s, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Without going further to even a non-traditional instrument, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to my piano concerto, which is the previous album. We recorded with the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields, my piano concerto and Pedro's first Portuguese guitar concerto, the first one ever written for that instrument.
I do believe that I heard parts of that.
Okay. Well, the second movement of my piano concerto, Pedro plays a whole part with the classical guitar and flamenco guitar techniques inside the piano with tremolandos, with
So I use my nails. As you can see, I have guitarist nails.
And for those who can't see at home, he does have guitar nails, that's for sure. Yes, they're well pedicured, yes, whatever, manicured.
And manicured.
Manicured. That would be different. Yeah.
Indeed. I don't play with my feet yet.
Yeah.
But I use the tremolo and rasgueado techniques and lots of different ways of playing. And I actually used banjo picks and guitar picks as well. So I could play some melodies that come out a little bit more. And that's in the second movement of Lucia's piano concerto. And it sounds really interesting and really beautiful.
Because there are parts in which we play at the same time, that I'm on a keyboard, he's inside, and then the harp intervenes, and that's like a dialogue, kind of like at the same time with the guitar, right?
With the three instruments, the piano on the keys, piano inside this on the strings, and then the harp. There are three instruments that are in an interplay that is really beautiful. Lucia wrote it beautifully. And even though I'm using technically flamenco techniques, there doesn't sound like flamenco at all.
No, right. It's the technique. That's why when I say transclassical, is use the technique of classical music. But the flavor, the sound, for example, these three instruments combined together, it makes a new tone, basically, right? Like a new tone. And people say, what is that? And then you say, well, this is a combination. It's not just the piano inside, it's the combination of those sounds together.
Yeah. I mean, I think in orchestration, we have that same experience in the orchestra. If you're combining, typically, an oboe and a flute, you could consider that a different instrument combined. Or, of course, they could be played as or written as two separate instruments, not combined. So,
right.
That's Let's talk a little bit about what you think the educational experience is like for young people today coming into symphony music. And, obviously it's much different than when we grew up. But what do you think young people, if they're interested in symphony music, particularly as a career, as a composer, performer, what kind of path should they look for themselves to take, and how should they prepare themselves?
Well, for symphony music, I think the most logical path is going to a conservatory, music school, higher education music school of some sort. Learn orchestration, instrumentation, look at an enormous amount of scores. That's the best way to learn. You have the best teachers in history right there, and you can listen to many recordings, go to live concerts. There are desk seats in both the symphony and also the opera. So you can actually, at least the Metropolitan Opera has desk seats. They're very inexpensive. They're less than a standing room seat, standing room ticket, I should say. And you can open the score and you can listen. And it's different listening in live. You hear all the sounds, you hear all the details, and the score seats are close enough that you can see the entire orchestra. So you can peek over and say, oh, that's what that instrument is playing. That's what I see in the score. That's what it sounds like. The balance issues are a huge deal in opera because you need to balance the voice with sometimes trombones and trumpets and timpani.
Right.
And you need to balance the harp with the rest of the instruments. Wagner's solution was to add more harps and more harps and more harps. So he has 7 harps in Rheingold, which is bonkers. But all of these things are really essential when you study, because most composers don't know how to, many composers who are starting, let's put it that way, don't know how to balance the voice with the orchestra or the harp with the orchestra, to give 2 prominent examples. And so going to concerts with the score is absolutely essential. A recording is not the same because they can just put the harp louder.
Indeed, we can. And we do. Yeah, that's right. So a lot of
I
in-person
think
experience and score reading. Yes, Lucia, what do you think?
I was going to say that Pedro is right. I think it's a great idea, but now I think the question is, how do you adapt that to young audience? That's the challenge. How do you present exactly what you said, but in a version for young and even kids? For example, when I saw your project, what it really struck me is that Symphonina is like a mini symphony, right? Like you put like a 5-minute piece that will be a song more than a structure in a way that any kid can really go through, have all of these elements that Pedro said, but instead of listening to Wagner, 6 hours opera, you put it in 5 minutes. That's what the genius part is. And I really listened to the music, and it has the melody attraction, the colors that will really get to children. I don't think that the child will enjoy as much contemporary, completely dissonant in tonal music as they will enjoy something more tonal with harmonies. It's just a kid and a young audience. We're not going in intellectual here, not yet. You can go in that direction, but at the early age, I wouldn't go that avant-garde in those terms. But for example, an idea that I thought as a collaboration, for example, I don't know if you heard of the Little Red Schoolhouse in Manhattan. I've been teaching there for more than 10 years. I have not.
There's a million things I haven't heard of those, so tell me about it.
Well, it's a very good school. A lot of celebrity kids go there, and I had opportunity to meet really, really very interesting people and kids who are really keen to art. It offers an after school that is very art oriented and music oriented. And I started working with kids, with even young, like 3-4-year-old kids. And the way I made them really concentrate and play, I, as a composer, and that's why I say I'm writing a method, because I'm writing the songs for them. I started with some country motion, making harmony and stuff, but it was playing through storytelling, telling a story. Every song has a story. Even the notes are part of the story, are characters. For example, in Halloween, I said, what is the challenge of a Halloween song? That you have to use scary tones, and that's you introduce flats and sharps and other registers that are not just the middle range of the piano. You go high, you go low, and that's a story. And say, we're going to dress up a note. This is the costume for Halloween. So let's make a flat. That's like a costume A. We put a flat in between. It was already like a mask. And the kids are really into it. I make a Halloween concert at home. I decorate everything. They come and play scary, spooky songs. And then I once thought, I will include in this method at the end of a certain book, a mini concerto, because they're learning piano with me. So how about a 2-3 minutes concerto in which they experience to have an orchestra around and following a director at the end? And that would be like a 3-minute concerto with all the elements. And then I saw your Symphonina idea. I was like, whoa. So everything you said adapted to a young audience to catch them, to make it easy. And then, of course, if they want to follow into the bigger form.
Yeah. I love the idea of the Symphonina, and I'm not a purist in that sense. When it comes to kids, I'm not a purist because we need to grab their attention. So we can do a shorter version, like Fantasia 2000, the Disney movie, the sequel to the 1941 film. Disney told the conductor, all right, we're going to do Beethoven's Fifth, but we have to do a short version. We need to do it, I forget, 4 minutes and a half. And the conductor was like, if it's the right 4 minutes, it will be fine.
Well, I think for me, my own personal experience with talking with people about Symphonina concept and just things in general, it's not just kids who have naturally short attention spans. They do. And hopefully our attention spans grow longer as we mature. But there's so many pressures on all of us in our everyday world. And then there's the phone. I'm looking at mine right now, which is capable of distracting us at any time. So I think really we get trained as adults in this world of all ages to have shorter and shorter attention spans and be more easily distracted, have our minds wander off to whatever it was that was bothering us during the day. It's just part of life. So not just being able to get kids involved earlier, but I think younger people, younger than me, as I said, that's pretty much everybody, but people younger than me involved, hopefully the shorter format will be a good way of so far it has been a good way of getting more people involved. And then they can go listen to more avant-garde or longer or whatever they want as they go, or they can go back to listening to pop tunes. That's fine too. We don't have a bias against pop tunes or any other tune.
Yeah.
We just would like to
no.
have more exposure to symphonic music and the joy that it brings.
Actually, that brings us to our next project.
I was going to ask, so what do we have for 2025?
So we have a transclassical rock project where we have already performed several times with several different orchestras. We did it with at least 4 orchestras, 2 in Argentina, one with our chamber orchestra, Manhattan Camerata, another one with TON, the orchestra now, which is a wonderful orchestra here in New York. What we do is that we incorporate the electric guitar with the symphonic orchestra, or the Portuguese guitar, or the sitar, or some other instruments like that. And we do a few originals, but many famous songs, or songs that are not as famous as they should be by famous acts. So I love the Beatles. I have a few songs of the Beatles that should be way more famous than they are, like Tomorrow Never Knows, Within You, Without You, and Dear Prudence. But I also have Here Comes the Sun, and Come Together. You do need to give people, things that they recognize. But we always do it with artistic integrity so that it really works and that we really love it and we think that the result is worth it and is different than what the Beatles did, and we can amplify with the orchestra. We also have, Led Zeppelin and Radiohead and Queen with choirs. So we did 2 concerts in Argentina with different choirs and orchestra, and it's been a great success, and that's what we want to record next.
Any opportunity for you? Yeah, I was going to say, maybe you could tour with that.
Yeah.
Yes, there's opportunities for that. But we're shopping around an orchestra to record it with.
Okay.
So we'll see who we do it with. But it's a lot of fun, and audiences love it. And it's appropriate for kids because they're like, oh, I know that song. Like we did Bohemian Rhapsody. Everybody knows that. And it's so complex that you actually need a really well-trained classical choir to sing all those notes. And even then, it's quite difficult.
Well,
But the kids just love it. The older people love it because it's the music of their time. People who are in between love it. It's great.
Yes, sounds like it would appeal to just about everybody. When do you expect that to be, if everything goes the way you would like and you get the orchestra that you want and the timing that you want, when would we expect to see the release?
2025, 26, around there. Because we're
trying to shop. You still have to decide which orchestra you're going to record and all of that.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm collaborating with Sophie Kauer. Do you know who is a cellist? It's a young cellist who's up and rising and getting really recognized. She was the co-actress with, I don't know if you saw the movie Tar with Cate Blanchett.
I don't think so.
Okay, it was a couple of years ago with some Oscar nominations, and so
it won at least one Oscar.
Okay, so Cate Blanchett is the character of a female composer, conductor, yes, and a co-actress with her. That the story happens is cellist. All right, so the cellist is a real cellist. Besides being an actress, they auditioned like hundreds of young cellists to have this role, and she won it. And I happened to meet her in a festival in Mexico, and we became friends. And she commissioned me a cello concerto. Because of funding reason, I've just worked one movement that works stands as a one piece, 7 minutes, 8 minutes piece. And I'm working with her on that. I'm meeting in Denmark with her at the end of January to go on the Scandinavian Cello School, which is a farm. We're going to work on the piece. There is a premiere already in London in April with the cello and piano version. And we're still looking for an orchestra to do the world premiere and record. She's associated with Deutsche Grammophon. So that's another big project that it's for this year.
You both have a lot going on.
Yeah.
Well, and okay, so if that orchestra conductor or music director is listening right now and would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, email or social media.
Yeah. Caruso Lucia 1 is my Instagram handle. And you're a tritone king.
Yes, I'm the tritone king. I love tritones.
That's great. Do you have a website also where people could go and visit you?
Yeah, luciacaruso.com.
LuciaCaruso.com. And mine is pedrodasilva.com. So Da Silva is spelled DASILVA.
And you have
So
you have contact forms there too, I think, if I remember right.
yes.
Yep.
All the contacts, all the social media, YouTube pages, everything is there so that you can follow all of our stuff easily.
Wonderful, wonderful. Lucia, Pedro, thank you so much for your time today. I wish you all the best for the rest of this year and 2025 and 2026 as we hear it's the project's going to go, and we'll stand by to listen and announce when you have new releases for us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we love Symphonina, so good luck to you too with Symphonina.
Thank you so much.
We can't wait to hear more.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Well, we're working on it.
We'll ready one day.
Yes, that'd be great. We'll keep you posted, of course. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.